Asterisk the Nova effect. Why good luck can destroy you. What if the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually the best? Not because it felt good, not because it was easy, but because you judged it before the story was finished. We spend our lives dividing events into two simple categories: good luck, bad luck, success, failure. But what if those labels say more about our impatience than reality itself? Imagine a man named Eric. One quiet afternoon, he takes his dog, Nova, for a walk. It's an ordinary day, nothing unusual, until a rabbit suddenly bursts from a bush. Nova lunges after it. The leash slips from Eric's hand. For a second, he freezes, then he runs. He calls her name over and over, but every step he takes only pushes her farther away. Within moments, she disappears. Anyone who's ever lost something they love knows what comes next. You replay the moment endlessly. If only I had held the leash tighter. If only we'd taken another street. If only we'd left 5 minutes later. Your mind becomes obsessed with changing a past that no longer exists. Not because it helps, because certainty hurts less than randomness. For 2 weeks, Eric searches everywhere. Friends join him. Neighbors help. Missing posters cover the neighborhood. Every morning begins with hope. Every night ends with disappointment. Eventually, he reaches a painful conclusion. He was simply unlucky. Then one afternoon, someone knocks on his door. Standing there is a woman holding Nova's leash. Her name is Vanessa. She found Nova wandering miles away. She recognized the missing posters. She brought her home. The worst moment of Eric's month suddenly becomes the happiest. But the story doesn't stop there. Eric and Vanessa talk. They laugh. They meet again. Weeks become months. Friendship becomes love. Before long, Eric begins telling the story differently. Losing Nova wasn't bad luck. It was the luckiest thing that ever happened. Because if Nova had never run away, he never would have met Vanessa, the exact same event. A completely different meaning. And that's where most people stop thinking. They believe they've finally understood why everything happened. But life almost never ends where we decide it should. Months later, Eric is driving to pick up Vanessa for dinner. It's a familiar road, a familiar intersection. The light is green. Without warning, another driver races through a red light. The impact is devastating. Metal twists, glass explodes, everything goes black. Hours later, Eric wakes in a hospital. His first thought is simple. How could this happen? He wasn't speeding. He wasn't distracted. He was simply going to see the woman he loved. His mind immediately searches for an explanation. Wrong place, wrong time, terrible luck, because that's what the human mind does. It rushes to assign meaning. Before it has all the information, the doctors order emergency scans. They need to check for internal injuries. The next morning, a doctor walks into Eric's room carrying the results. He asks a strange question. Have you ever had a brain scan before? Eric says no. The doctor pauses, then quietly says, we found something. A tumor not caused by the accident. It had been there for years, growing silently, without a single symptom. The accident didn't create the problem. It revealed it. If Eric had never been brought to the hospital, the tumor might have remained hidden until it became malignant. By then, it could have been too late. Instead, it was discovered early enough to remove. The accident that almost took his life ended up saving it. Think about that for a moment. Yesterday, the crash was the worst thing that had ever happened. Today, it's the reason Eric gets another chance to live. Nothing about the accident changed. Only what Eric learned afterward. And that raises an uncomfortable question. How many moments in your own life have you judged far too early? The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the opportunity you missed, the city you never moved to, the friend who slowly disappeared. You probably still carry a label for each one. Success is a failure. Blessing. Mistake. But those aren't facts. They're conclusions, written before the story was finished. Psychologists have long observed that our minds crave certainty. When something painful happens, we ask, why me? When something wonderful happens, we ask, what did I do to deserve this? We assume every event is the final answer, when in reality, it's often just another chapter. This is what I call the Nova effect. Asterisk the realization that every event belongs to a chain of consequences, far too complex for any human mind to predict. Every ending becomes the beginning of something else. Every loss creates possibilities you cannot yet see. Every victory carries costs you haven't yet discovered. Not because life is secretly rewarding or punishing you, but because life is always moving. The moment you freeze a single event and declare, this is good, or this is bad, you're pretending you've already seen the ending. You haven't, neither has anyone else. This doesn't mean suffering isn't real. Losing Nova hurt. The accident hurt. Recovery hurt. Pain doesn't become imaginary simply because something meaningful follows it. But neither does pleasure guarantee safety. Sometimes the promotion feeds your ego. Sometimes easy success steals your ambition. Sometimes the relationship that feels perfect keeps you from becoming the person you are meant to be. Sometimes Good luck quietly builds the cage, while bad luck quietly leaves the door open. Maybe wisdom isn't learning to celebrate every victory, or fear every setback. Maybe wisdom is simply refusing to judge your life before your life has finished speaking, because the moment you become certain that you know what an event truly means is often the moment the story has the most left to reveal. The page hasn't finished turning.